Hi everyone, this is a video response to King Heathen's topic about deconversion. I was a fundamentalist Christian for 20 years, ever since I was 12 years old. Even though I grew up believing that there is nothing supernatural, there is no God, and that these ideas were simply invented by primitive cavemen back when they had no other explanation for things like thunder and lightning. But nowadays we have science, and we understand there is a scientific explanation for the world around us, so we no longer needed such fairy tales. When I was 12, my family went from the Czech Republic to Austria, and over there my dad became friends with a Catholic priest who did a mass every Sunday in our area in our language, and so we started going to mass every Sunday. Now, I didn't want to go, but I was forced to go by my parents, who literally had to drag me kicking and screaming to church every Sunday. I hated it. But after Mass, the priest used to spend a bit of time with us and talk to us, and he was telling me about how everything that exists couldn't have just come out of nothing, that someone had to have created it. And I was just humoring him at first, but somewhere along the line I started thinking, well, maybe it's true. Maybe there is a God. And so I assumed that if there is a God, it had to be the God he's talking about, the God of the Bible. So he gave me a children's Bible, and I read it, and I read any other Christian literature I could get my hands on because, well, I wanted to find out about this God. I wanted to know more about him. The following year, we moved to Australia, and my parents continued to go to church, and I continued to go as well. And later in my teenage years, even though my parents no longer went to church, I still continued to go because I believed it. And when I was 19, I felt God wanted me to become a pastor, and so I began to work towards that goal. I did a church planting course. I became involved in various church ministries. I was a youth leader and mentor. I was in a music group. I used to sing at the front of the church. I was on the drama team. And then after that, I was involved in actually starting a new church. Then later on in my 20s, after I got married, we moved interstate so I could go to Bible college and train to become a pastor. Now, while I was down there training to become a pastor, I got involved in the local church. I was the assistant pastor. I was vice chairman of the church board, and I was involved in starting up and leading a men's group. But during that year, what started to bother me was that I realized that what I believed and what I wanted to do were no longer the same thing. I began to feel like I had to wear a mask to fit in. I mean, the Bible college and denomination that I was a part of, for instance, believed that it was wrong to drink any alcohol at all, and yet I used to smuggle alcohol. We lived on the Bible college campus, and I used to smuggle alcohol and used to sit at my computer or watch TV at night drinking alcohol with my wife, and sometimes by myself. So by the end of the first year, I decided to leave, and I think during that year is pretty much where the process of my deconversion began. Even during discussions in class, I remember not sure how the discussion began, but I remember telling one of my lecturers in class that I was more comfortable hanging out with people who were not Christian because there is no expectation on their part of me. They're not expecting me to be anything. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to wear a mask. And they don't do it either. What you see is what you get. I mean, yeah, okay, people outside the church wear some masks, but not the same kind of masks and not to the same extent that people in the church do. And so I was telling him how I felt more comfortable with non-Christians, and that in the church I felt like I had to try and live up to people's expectations, and I used the phrase, keep up the image, and when I said it, he just looked at me for a couple of seconds and repeated the phrase. Didn't say anything about it afterwards, but I felt like at that point he formed some sort of negative opinion about me. Didn't really bother me though. But I felt that way over the years as a Christian, that with people in the church I didn't like that they wear masks, and I always, even though I was a fundamentalist Christian and very involved in the church, I always felt like I felt more comfortable with people outside the church because they didn't wear masks, and I liked that.